Okay, welcome back to the Odd Topic Podcast. I'm back here with Andrew. It's episode number 56 of the Odd Topic Podcast. I'm here at Game Trade, located in the Pere. What street is this off of?
Reed Street.
Oh, Reed
Reed
Street.
Street in De Pere. It's the one-way street that goes the opposite of Main. So it's
Oh,
like most people, if you said Main Ave, you get there. But
oh, okay.
it's not that simple. Never is.
I'm here with Gregg, the owner of Game Trade. So, one of my questions I have for you is how did Game Trade all begin?
Yeah. So I worked for GameStop for 11 years.
Okay.
So I liked that too, and I liked what I did there, just not who I was doing it for.
Ah,
And that's what I realized over the time was the customers weren't coming to the store to shop at GameStop's deals and get product that they couldn't get somewhere else. They were doing it because of the people that were working there. So
mhm.
myself and my staff. And I thought, well, try doing it on your own. And then I also
Yeah.
really liked the retro stuff. And this was I opened in 2011 when GameStop was completely out of retro. I mean, they didn't. I don't even think they did a little PS2 back then, but for the most part, they were completely out of it.
Mm.
And so I was like, well, I want to do NES games and Super and Genesis. And so I basically just said, I think I could do this. I think customers will find me and like my store because of me
Yeah.
and not just the company. And I was right. So it worked, thank God, because I didn't really have any proof that it was going to work. I just had like that feeling.
Mhm.
And so it was just a hope and a prayer sort of thing.
Yeah. And I like the fact that your place is way different than GameStop, like you said. You have every single console from anything and every single game, pretty much from every console.
And you have a lot of retro.
Yeah, a lot of retro
Yeah,
stuff. They don't
man.
sell retro.
And of course, we got a little lucky too because right around 2011, 2012 was when like the retro boom was happening. So like you had all these YouTubers doing videos on retro games. YouTube's blowing up that way, and so there was a whole renewed sense of collecting retro games, and so that's coming about. We just happened to be open at a good time. Like a lot of it
Hmm.
was luck. It wasn't all skill or anything. And so yeah, you had this kind of explosion of retro happening at the time when we were in that business, and
Yeah.
so it was kind of the stars aligned, I guess, the
What
best way to say it.
what would you categorize retro for the viewers that don't know what retro games are?
So roughly, I consider retro games 20 years old.
Okay, so
That's
like
what I think it's fair to say something that's 20 years old is retro.
Yeah.
So now though, 20 years old is we're getting to PS3 and 360 are almost
Yeah.
20
It's
years
crazy.
old.
Yeah. And
So the Wii and the PS3 launched in 2006,
yeah.
and the 360 launched in 2005.
Mhm.
So this is the 20th anniversary of the Xbox 360.
This is
So,
insane.
so I mean, I still don't necessarily consider those retro. I would say the generation before that right now. So PS2 and older,
Mhm.
GameCube, Xbox original and older, technically retro. But we're creeping up, man. We're getting old, and we're creeping up into
Would-
PS3 being retro.
would you consider like Nintendo being retro, like the DS2?
Yeah, I think you have
Yeah.
to, right? I mean, the especially Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, DS technically too. The 3DS actually came out the day after I quit GameStop to open this place. So the 3DS came out in 2011, so
Mhm.
that's 14 years old. So I mean, they did different iterations over the years, but the original, yeah, 14 years old already. So it's like we're getting there. But
Mhm.
Game Boy Advance for sure. Anything Nintendo, Super Nintendo, all that stuff is the
Yeah.
most popular for collectors. But
I only ask because I do have a DS2 with a lot of Pokemon games.
yeah, Pokemon games have always held their value. So
Mhm.
you've done well there. Yeah, like Pokemon games, good value always.
What was the first system that you ever had, growing up?
So technically, the first system we had was something called the ColecoVision,
Okay.
which it came out after the Atari 2600, and it was a competitor to that. It was kind of a clunky machine. It didn't sell super well, but it was way better graphically. And then a couple years later, Santa brought us the NES. We must have been overweight little kids because he got us the bundle with the power pads so you could run on the mat. But but yeah, Santa Claus brought us an NES, and then that was really the evolution of it. Like when that happened, that changed everything. And I was when we got that. I was talking to my mom about this recently, trying to figure out exactly when we got it. I think it was 90, 91 was
Mhm.
when we would have gotten it. So I was 11, I was 10 years old when we had that. So it was that perfect age of understanding it, starting to remember, getting core memory remembrance. And I'm like, man, it was just kind of the perfect storm for me, the perfect age for that. And clearly it left an impression. So it's inspired me to do this.
So what was your number one favorite game back then, you'd say? like growing up?
Man, I don't know. I would say probably, I mean, all the good NES platformers. So Super Mario Brothers 3,
Mm-hmm.
Castlevania 3, Ninja Gaiden 1, 2, and 1 and 2 mostly. 3 is fine too, but 1 and 2. I mean, pretty much anything on the NES that was like a side-scrolling platform was good. One of my favorite games of all time is a game called Maniac Mansion.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's like a
Sounds
point-and-click adventure game. So you actually move a character around, but you interact with objects. So it's not really an action game, but it's really goofy. Just well written and fun, and yeah, so that game left an impression. But mostly those really good official like Nintendo core properties, Castlevanias, Mario's, stuff like that. Just hard to beat.
What's your favorite, Cody?
Game all time? Man.
It's hard to say,
Yeah.
right? It's hard to say game of all time because like there's current, retro, old.
Yeah.
It's hard to say for sure.
I'd say like the first game I ever played was probably like on the PlayStation 2. I think it was like called Spider-Man 2.
Sure. Oh, Spider-Man 2 is great.
Dude,
Yeah.
I tried like revisiting that game like I want to say like a year ago, and I swear that game's got way harder. Like back then, they were so more difficult than they are
Really?
today. Like video games, yeah. If you ever go revisit a game, it's not as easy as you thought it
Yeah,
was.
a lot of newer games really want to bring more people into gaming, and by
Yeah.
doing that, they have to make them more accessible, and a lot of times that means easier, or
Mhm.
more tutorials, or more explanations of how things work. And a lot of older games were like, well, we're making this for somebody who already knows how to play games, so we don't have to mess around trying to
Yeah.
explain it. Just throw them into the world and let them go. And now newer games. I was recently playing the new Monster Hunter, and I've been playing Monster Hunter since the PS2. So since 2004, that game came out. And what that game was then to what it is now, I mean, it sold something like 8 million copies in the first 3 days. So it's hugely successful and it's popular,
Mhm.
but it's super simplified and dumbed down now. So it's like, but they had to do that to grow its popularity.
Mhm.
So like, I don't hate it for that. Like, I've always been bummed out by people who get frustrated by something they used to love when it wasn't popular and then it gets popular. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
but that's success, and we should always welcome success in anything, including, games and media. And I think that, but it is a little sad when you're like, well, my game changed though. It's not the same
Yeah.
game it was when I played it 20 years ago, but it still rules.
Yeah,
I still put 80 hours into it over the last week. I played it like a full-time job with overtime, baby.
Yeah.
It was good.
it's kind of like with Elden Ring, because Elden Ring is a super difficult game like Dark Souls, but then they came out with, I'm not sure if it was like a DLC or like a kind of like a new standoff for the game. It's like a three-player game, and it's way different from like a single player fighting bosses.
Yeah, so it's not out yet. It's coming out this summer. It's called Night Rain. And yeah, they took the Elden Ring formula, but then turned it into like a three-player battle royale online game, and
Mm.
that's totally the opposite of
Yeah.
what that game is. Now, the good thing is it doesn't remove Elden Ring from
Mhm.
existence, but I don't know. Am I gonna play it? I don't know. I'm not
Feels
gonna play
like-
it the same way for sure.
It feels like it just kind of like pushes me away because I'm so used to playing Elden Ring compared to like what they're trying to do now.
It's almost like they didn't make that game for Elden Ring fans. They made it for
New fans.
Destiny fans,
Yeah.
and they made it for PUBG fans, and I don't know, any other battle royales that are kind of dying actually now, which is funny. They don't really
Mhm.
make a lot of new BRs anymore. Obviously, the ones that are popular, Fortnite still crushes
Yeah.
and everything, but like. It used to be every week there was a new BR coming out, and now they're back to hero shooters, right? Because
Mhm.
Marvel Rivals is rocking it, so now
Love
everyone's
that
going on with the
game.
hero
Yeah.
shooter now. I do too. I haven't played it since Monster Hunter came out, but yeah, it was good though. It was good.
So like, what game franchise do you think is actually like dying off, but they just keep pumping them out like every year? Like my personal opinion, I think it's like Assassin's Creed, because like the downfall is crazy for that game. They used to be so good.
Sure. It's funny because I actually think it's starting to come back. I think
Really?
it had some bad years, but they released a new one like every year. For a
Yeah.
while. I'm like, of course you're gonna basically milk it till it's done and buried. I think it's already gone, but Guitar Hero is a great example of
Mhm.
that. It was top of the world for a while.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted it, and then they made, I don't know, like 4 or 5 games in 1 year one time. They were pumping them out, and then all of a sudden, just like they burned it out, and now everyone's hankering for it.
Mhm.
They don't have it anymore. You can't get it on modern consoles except for like a new version of it that wasn't popular and it doesn't work with the old games or hardware. But that's a big one. I think it's fair to say that the looter shooters are struggling. So your Destinies, the Division, stuff like that. Those games, like those, are kind of on a slow death, but they've got their core gamers
Or
and they're okay.
Helldivers.
I don't know. I mean, I feel
No?
like Helldivers is still cranking.
It's still cranking?
I actually stopped playing it after a couple weeks. I liked it a lot, but I
Mhm.
burned out real fast on it. but I still see a lot of people playing that.
Yeah.
But I think inevitably every game should eventually end. I'm not a big fan of, that term they have is called games as a service. And games as a service means we want to keep you playing our game forever, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to play one game forever.
Exactly.
Like I want to explore a whole new world, and I want so to me when I play a game like that, I want to play it, get my time in it, and I want to move on. I don't want to come back to it. But some people, that's all they play is a Destiny, or all they play is even a Marvel Rivals. It's not a looter shooter, it's a hero shooter, but at least something like that. Like that's all they play. You're like, well, but I don't want to play one game the rest of my life. That seems terrible.
Yeah.
And that's why we need to play Roblox.
Yeah, and then Roblox. Look at all the variety you get in Roblox.
Yeah.
There's actually a fish game in Roblox that I've been playing for the last 2 weeks.
Roblox is interesting because you find youngins are a bit younger than I am. So I didn't grow up with Roblox, but I see how that was a generational type game. Minecraft was generational, like Super Mario Brothers for me was generational, even though it still exists in newer forms. It shaped a lot, and then Roblox, what an interesting way of not just because it wasn't just games, it was also a creative side where you could be creative, and then you're playing other people's creations, like letting the community create. And it's hard to beat that. I mean, that's really smart. There's a lot of garbage on there, of course, because people make a lot of garbage.
I would say it's about 96% garbage.
Yeah.
The rest of the 4%, it's just really good games like Fish.
Yeah, you find something that just grabs you, man. Yeah.
Because I've been playing Roblox for since I was 11.
That's amazing.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That's amazing, man. But that's what's cool about it, right? Is that was like I was working at GameStop and we were selling Roblox cards. So you were playing at 11 and I was selling them in like my 20s. So that's a big age gap there. But yeah, that's cool. And like Roblox is an interesting thing, and I hope that they don't ever get too greedy with the monetization because it's kind of a
it's
special
on the fence
thing.
right now.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the bigger games they're starting to implement a lot more monetization, and it's not really sitting well with certain communities that play the games, but it just kind of depends. See if they're what they plan on taking with the game, because it could be a really good game. Because Fish was actually bought out by a larger company, and ever since it was bought out, a lot of more monetization. Roblox.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, it's people say if you don't want to if you don't want to play the game because of monetization, just don't play the game. But then people, I don't know. I'm trying to find something, but it's on the tip of my tongue, and it just left.
Yeah, it's what I was talking about earlier was success, right? Like we should always celebrate success. And so when a small indie dev comes up with something in Roblox and it's successful, and then you want them to get paid. I want that person to be able to sustain his life off of his creativity, and the project he created brought you joy. It's bring a lot of people joy. Like that should be worth more money. But then as soon as you monetize it, then the big company that their whole thing is well, we're gonna make everybody monetize, and then it ruins part of it. You're like, but I want that guy to get rich, but he had to use you to get rich, and you had to be rich to get him rich. So I have to not hate you for being rich too. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, but
that's more of a larger societal issue, probably.
No, it's because the devs that bought it was I think it's the Beyblade devs. I feel
okay.
Everyone should get paid. So
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of money in Roblox, so as long as the creators are getting paid, that's the most important thing because it breeds more creativity when you get rewarded for that creativity, And there's something about the starving artist, sure, where if you're struggling, you work harder to create something maybe, but no, I'd rather just everyone gets paid.
Exactly. I wish companies didn't rush out developers and stuff to pump out one every year, like I said before. For this past year, there was this new college football game that took them 10 years to make. But I feel if they did that for every sports game, just take your time making
take a break,
it.
Maybe,
take a break.
It's like GTA.
Yeah.
Well, and that goes to the whole corporate mentality of it is, every year, kind of the way the corporate world works when you're a publicly traded company is it's not good enough to just do as well as you did the year before.
Yeah.
You have to do better. If you don't do better than you did the year before, then you're worse. And that's it's such a bad mentality to have. And admittedly, I had it here for many years with my business. If you're not growing, you're dying, right?
Yeah.
And maybe in the early couple years, that's a okay and a healthy relationship to have with a business as a philosophy, but ultimately it's not, especially for a small business. For big corporations, they have to make money for the shareholders, yada yada. But that's what it is it comes down to if they don't make a Madden one year, they lose X amount of money, and then they can't make that back, and they won't make back what they lost this year, even if they double their sales the next year by waiting 2 years, because they won't. And I think the fact of the matter is that us fans were paying for it. Like, and I don't say I don't play Madden every year, but there are so many people that do, and they buy a new one every year it comes out. I mean, if those people stopped buying it every year, they'd probably stop making it every year.
Exactly.
But they don't. And the only reason the college football stopped was because it was really messy rights with NCAA, and there was this whole kind of we were on the cusp of players suing the NCAA to get paid. So there was this kind of weird like uncertainty there, and I think EA was like, the game doesn't sell so well that we're gonna risk lawsuits and stuff, so we're backing off. And then once NCAA started settling, now players can get paid. Now they don't get in trouble for they can monetize their college years. And now that they did that, now they're like, okay, now we can make a deal with EA. EA can pay appropriately to everybody who's in the game, and and I think so. Yeah, so it's unfortunate that it's all always about money.
Exactly, I hate that.
And it is weird because a lot of art isn't created. A lot of people want to talk about video games are art, and I agree that they are art in a sense, but they are still a product. And a lot of art isn't a product. A lot of art is to be enjoyed and received, and like you look at the Mona Lisa, right? And you're just like,
Or like Pokemon cards.
yeah, like and Pokemon cards would probably be closer to video games in that sense, where there's amazing art there, and you could treat them as such, but they also have a tangible use. And video games do, but unfortunately, when you have a tangible use, that means you have to make. That's how you make money doing it, and then you build companies around it, and like so it is unfortunately all about the money, and if you don't make money, you don't make games, and so it'd be nice if just games were created for free and we all got to enjoy them for free.
Yeah.
But then the people that made them somehow got rich, even though they were free. I don't know. If you guys figure out the perfect society that allows for that, let me know and I'll subscribe to it.
I mean, I would say like a good example for like a good game is Marvel Rivals, because it's a free-to-play game, but they also have like in-store purchases you can buy for like a low value.
Yeah. I think the free-to-play model is totally fine with microtransactions, especially when they don't affect it's not pay to win, so it's just different skins. I think it is still kind of predatory in a sense, where, especially like Wolverine, for instance, in that game is one of my favorite heroes. I actually like dressed up as him for Halloween last year. And
like the
That's awesome.
his initial outfit in
It's pretty bland.
Rivals is weak, and then they sell the Deadpool and Wolverine skin though, and it's like $20 for one outfit.
It's
and
crazy.
I almost bought it, and I hadn't even played the game yet or played Wolverine yet. And then later I was playing the game and I started playing Wolverine. I'm like, I actually don't like this play style. So I would have bought a $20 skin and never even played the character.
Exactly.
He's more of like a hit and run character.
Yeah.
He just grabs the tanks and bring it to the back line.
And see, and I love I like melee to a sense. Like I love Cap. So I get in there and I'm just like staying alive, keeping in there, being in the tussle, being a tank. But yeah, Wolverine, like I've seen people crush with him, but nah, he's not.
It's a lot of mechanics behind him.
Yeah.
It's like you have to like do everything right in a sequence, and if you don't do it, you'll mess up your combo, and then you just die.
And you're dead. Yep.
Exactly. Do you think the new Wolverine game that's going to be coming out soon is going to be really good?
I have very high hopes for that game, yes.
Yeah, me too.
Insomniac really does really high quality work. I've enjoyed all their games up through Spider-Man 1 and 2, Miles Morales, all awesome.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine it won't be. It's funny, I don't know if you've seen like the leaked footage or whatever of it.
Yeah.
I try not to look too much into that stuff because it wasn't like they released it. It was, it was hacked and released that way. But it's funny when you watch the gameplay, it looks just like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like he literally just like leaps buildings and he's clawing up walls and I'm like, how can it be bad? How can it be bad? I mean, if it's voiced well and it's got a good story and they start bringing in different characters, especially mutants, and man, sign me up.
What's the game?
I don't know what
Just
they're
called Wolverine,
yeah,
man.
Wolverine,
I didn't know that was coming out.
Yeah, Marvel's Wolverine. It's same company that did Spider-Man 2, Insomniac. Just
nice.
Incredible devs. Yeah, really high quality studio. Yep, they've been around a long time.
I think they made Ratchet and Clank too.
Yep.
I believe, yeah. It's another great series that they have. But what is like one of your most joys of running a business? When it comes to the video game aspect,
Well, I think probably it's the like seeing people react to the product we have. So you'll see people come up and they'll look at something in the glass case and you watch them, they visually respond.
Yeah.
Like, I totally forgot about this. I had this when I was a kid. And you watch them, like, you can watch them traveling back in time in their mind. And it's like awesome. It's my favorite thing. And when I first opened, that's what this was all kind of about. And we talked a little bit before the podcast about this, but like the problem now is that like everything, it's a tradable commodity, right? Used video games are worth money and they're valuable, so people like them. So now most people that come in, the first thing they want to say is, "Oh, I got this game dirt cheap, and now it's worth $100." Like, that's cool. I like that story.
Mm.
What I like more though is watching somebody remember it and watching somebody go, "I gotta buy this because I used to sit like." I think of a certain game and I can remember the carpet I was sitting on when I was playing it.
Exactly.
You know, and like it like visually it warps me right back in time, and I love it, and I love watching other people do that. I think that's just the coolest thing about this business. You know, I mean, it's just we more than anything probably sell nostalgia. Really,
Yeah.
we're selling that more than we're selling the actual product, because a lot of this stuff, to be fair, doesn't necessarily hold up. You know, like you
Yeah.
might play a game after 20 years and in your head it was the coolest thing ever, and then you play it again, you're like, what was I on?
Yeah.
Man, this is not good. But no, it's but you're selling the memories.
Yeah, it
You're
brings you
selling
back to
it,
that
yeah.
time, you know?
Happier times for most people. Like you remembering a simpler time, a happier time. Like I tell this story a lot, but when the PS1 came out, a couple years after it was out, it was like 1997. I got my driver's license in 1997 because I'm really old. But when I got that, my older brother had moved out of the house, and I have two brothers and a sister, so there are four of us kids. And the way my house was set up upstairs, we were sharing bedrooms and stuff. So this was the first time in my life. He moved out. I had my own bedroom. I had a job and a car, so I would have my own money. I went and bought a PS1, and I would have it in my room. No one could tell me when it was not. I couldn't play it. Nobody, it was like it was mine. And so I have this memory of the PS1. It's not just the memory of playing PS1 games. It's that memory of freedom I had. Like when you first, do you remember when you first got your driver's license?
Yeah.
Right? That first day, like driving on your own.
Yeah.
Like king of the world.
Exactly.
And I remember that feeling. I remember that day that I got my driver's license.
Then I
and
crashed.
Yeah. It's so the PS1 is connected to my sense of freedom as growing up as a teenager too, and so like that is super nostalgic for me, not just for the games but for the time in my life, and that's a strong feeling, man. And I see those games, and it's also PS1 especially was also that's what CD cases were, right? So I was buying a lot of CDs, and I bought a $300 CD player for my old busted 80s car because I had to listen to CDs, and I was listening, and so listening to the music of that era on CD and playing CD games on the PS1, like all of that ties together for just like amazing memories and nostalgia.
And that goes into like the thing that me and Andrew were talking about before, is that the future is going to be really digital gaming stuff, but people are always going to come back to nostalgia stuff. So it only goes up in value.
Yeah, I think so. And you could argue that there'll be a time when the people who want NES or Super Nintendo games will be old and have them all, or die off or whatever, and so eventually you think it would. But people still collect model trains.
Yeah.
People still collect, RC cars. People still, people do slot car racing still. So I think if it's a fun hobby, it'll always have its newer, younger generations. Plus, video games aren't going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's still new video games coming out, and sometimes with Nintendo, it's new games in the same franchise, or they make a new Mario game. So there'll always be somebody who goes, well, I want to play the original Mario. We had, he was like maybe 10 or 12 years old, a kid in here the other day, and he bought a PS1 and like Gran Turismo 1 and Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1. I'm like, this kid knows. This kid knows. But what an experience for him. And that kid was like 12. And so then what I'd like to think is he'll play that, he'll have that in his collection, he'll have good memories from being a kid, even though that wasn't new when he was a kid. He'll have kids one day, he wants to show it to them. They might grow up around that same age, and then they play it, and at that point it's, I don't know, 40 years old or 50 years old, whatever it is, but they'll keep it alive. And I think that video games are unique that way, because there are still new video games, but now you've got that'll always drive the sale of old video games, as opposed to like, yeah, there's new model trains and stuff, but there's not really, I don't think you see a lot of new people coming into the model train like hobby. You've got, dads maybe doing it with their sons and stuff, but like there's no new something like as where video games is actually still growing as an industry. So yeah, it's cool. It's gonna always fuel that. So yeah, digital future sucks. It's coming.
Yeah.
But I think by the time that happens, it'll be around maybe 2030, 2028, 2030. Yeah. And then by that point, it's like,
yeah, I said about
we got how many years?
I said about 5 years.
Yeah, I'm like at that point, then you've got from 2030 all the way back to 1978. I mean, that's 52 years of video games to buy and sell. So we're fine. Yeah, we're fine.
The same thing I was talking about with the guy in Appleton, because my friend was saying that digital comics are taking over too, but people want the hard copy, you know.
Yeah.
It's the collect.
Yeah, it's
aspect.
the collect aspect.
Yeah, and one of my really good friends owns Powers Comics here in Green Bay.
Yeah,
And
Dave?
yeah,
Yeah.
Dave's a good dude. And so I was just there yesterday buying physical comics, and he was like, "Man, comics are in a good spot right now." He's talking about Kirkman, who did like Walking Dead and stuff.
Yeah.
He's doing what they call the Energon universe. So he's got Transformers and GI Joe comics.
Mhm.
They're blowing up. So this guy's bringing back Transformers and GI Joe. Now it's a whole generation of that. X-Men, there's a whole new slew of this new Ultimate Universe has come out. So Ultimate Spider-Man's crushing it.
Yeah.
A new Uncanny X-Men's crushing it. So you've got these staples that had rough 2000s and stuff, but now you're getting tons of good books, and they're getting like the people organizing it are getting good writers who care about it to write good comics. And you had recently the Last Ronin, the Teenage Mutant Ninja
That
Turtles
was
book,
crazy,
was
yeah.
awesome. So like you're getting some really cool stuff. And I think that was actually Eastman came back for that.
Yeah.
The creator of the Turtles. So you're like, man, this is. So I think if you make a good product, people will want to own it
Yeah.
physically. And there's new people, like Dave was saying, that there's new people coming in all the time buying physical comic books, and they'll start with just the 3 books, the Ultimates, the new stuff they read about, and then all of a sudden, well, now they come back, they add a book to their list, and then in a year or two they'll have 5 books on their list, and then all of a sudden they got a box full every week,
Yeah.
and that's how it goes. But you're right, digital comics should be the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Have a phone, just read your comics on your phone, pay for a subscription, and it's not overtaking physical like they thought. Look at vinyl made a comeback.
Yeah.
Vinyl's huge, and so many companies putting like every video game soundtrack on vinyl, limited run games selling tons of vinyl, and like I never had any connection to vinyl, thank God, or I've
Yeah.
owned probably like 1,000 because I'm a collecting,
Addict.
nerd. Yeah, addict is probably the best way to say it.
Yeah.
But physical comic books are here to stay, and that's a medium that's been around, I don't know, 100 years. I don't know, damn near.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
Almost 100, I would say.
yeah.
Oh,
Crazy.
well, another one of the questions I got for you is like, I see that you have like a lot of like collectible stuff, like valuable games. What would you say is the most valuable game that you had in your store?
That I've ever had.
That you ever had, off the top of your head?
Yeah, I would say it's between 2 of them, but the most valuable one we've ever had was a little backstory for it. So it's an N64 game of all games. It's
Yeah.
Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask.
Oh.
But they had a gray cartridge that they did as essentially it was a trade demo that you would have at, like, say, the Nintendo store in New York, or sometimes it would have maybe been at E3.
Yeah.
And when you turn the game on, you actually select what slice of the game you want to play. And so you get to actually pick a certain spot in the game, and it warps you there. So it's known as the Gray Cart Majora's Mask. It's a not-for-resale card. It was never sold. It was only at these trade shows, and I believe there's only something like 10 or 20 in existence total. We had one of those come through,
Yeah.
and that sold for about $8,000.
Oh my God.
$8,000. Yeah, that was pretty nuts. And then we had something similarly, another cartridge for the original Nintendo. It's a game called Little Samson, and it's a rare game on its own. It's about a $2,000 cartridge, and we had someone bring it in the box with manual and everything. So that was about $5,000. And then the crazy thing about that is both of those items, the Zelda. I know a guy who's a big Zelda collector. I just reached out to him and said, "Hey, I got this. Do you want it?" And he said yes. And then he said, "Hey, can you do any better on the price?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Okay, I'll buy it." Like, it wasn't even like there was no
Wow.
negotiating. It wouldn't have mattered. I could have probably jacked it up over what I felt it was valued at. I'm not like that. I wouldn't do that. But
Yeah.
especially to somebody I know. But I also wasn't cutting the price down. But to be fair, we paid $6,000 for it. So I mean, it's not like I got it for $5 at Goodwill and I'm
Exactly.
taking this guy to the woodshed. Like, realistically, we paid the person who was selling it good money. And I didn't expect to turn it around that quick, to be honest. I did not expect him to say yes, and then he came in like a week later and bought it. I'm like, okay, so I got
Wow.
my money back, made a few quick bucks, but yeah, it was a cool piece, man. That was a really cool piece, and that's something that I had never seen one in person before, and most people you talk to have never seen one in person. So it was pretty cool. Now that guy's got it in his collection,
Wow.
where no one else will ever see it again.
That is crazy. What were you
Yeah.
gonna say, Andrew?
I was gonna ask you, do you know if he still has it? But you already
He
answered the
does,
question.
yeah.
Yeah.
He still has it. Actually, he's a really big collector. His wife and him are actually from the Chicago area,
Oh.
and they come up a couple times. They have family around here, but they come up a few times a year, and they make sure every time they're by their family, they visit here. And yeah, I think he's actually coming up Monday because I think it's their anniversary or something. So like she's taken off work to like bring him up to go shopping for like their anniversary. So yeah,
Oh.
yeah, they're really great actually. Yeah, they're really really nice, and I'm glad that he was able to get it because he's not super rich or anything. He just
Mhm.
happened to have like I think if something about like he had just sold a house or something like that, or he had come into some money, so it was kind of cool because it went to somebody who, it wasn't just some super rich business guy who got it. It's actually a diehard collector who just happened to have a little extra scratch at that time. Now he probably could have spent that on something else, I'm sure, like anybody, but it was cool. It went to the right home. And that's a really big thing here is I'm really big on stuff going to the right home, and I've even like if I meet somebody and they're really passionate about something and they want something, I've marked stuff down just for that. Like I'll say, hey, we've had this. I'm like, we've had this for a while. It was like the other day we had this just Dead Mint Rob the Robot for NES, and I'm like, this one guy's like, oh, I think it was $180. He's like, would you be able to do any better? And I'm talking to him a little bit, and he's like, he had bought this Power Glove from us in the box, and he bought all this other weird, like Nintendo merch kind of stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, let's do 150, and let's get it down to a price that you can't say no to, and then I know it's going to a good home, and I feel good about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, do it all the time. I'd rather something gets where it needs to be, and ultimately, and this is kind of a skew off of that, but this business to be successful, I think, is all about making relationships. And that relationship I forged, and same with the guy who bought the Zelda. Like, I'm building relationships for future success, right? In 10 years, I expect one of those two people to come back to me at some point and be like, hey, I'm selling my stuff, or hey, I want to buy more. Either they're going to keep buying stuff for their collection, or they're going to sell me their collection. One of those two things is going to happen. And so I'm planting seeds and building relationships to last. I could squeeze every last dollar out of somebody today, but I don't want that. I want that relationship for years. I'd rather take $1 a day for a year than $300 one time ever. That's always been my philosophy anyway, and I think it's better that way. And you treat the customers better, and yeah, it works good.
Oh, yeah. I see that you have like a graded game in there too. How do you know like what games to get graded?
Sure.
So
How
do you know you could?
we didn't grade that. That was sold to us as graded.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not a fan of graded games.
Yeah.
Maybe sealed ones. Like there's a few sealed Pokemon games that like I have. Like I have an original Pokemon Red and Blue that like I'm thinking about getting graded at some point, right? Because if you want to play Pokemon Red and Blue, you're not buying a brand new copy to open it. Right?
Yeah.
So it shouldn't ever be opened at this point. Somehow it's sat in someone's garage sealed, so fine. But personally, I wouldn't grade anything that has a value below a couple $1,000. I think it's silly. That one that's in there is it's not even sealed. It's just a really nice copy of that game. It'd probably sell better if I just crack the slab and then just put it like $20 cheaper.
Yeah.
But it was sold to us like that, and I think it's always an experiment. Like I buy stuff like that occasionally to see if it'll sell. And to be fair, it hasn't sold in a really long time, so it makes me go, well, one, the price could be off. Usually that's a good indicator. But also it could be just like people don't really want graded games because someone wants to open it and play it. Especially a non-sealed copy like that. Like, why would anybody want that slabbed and then like, oh, I want to play Tiny Toon? Well, I can't. It's encased in plastic.
Yeah.
It's kind of goofy to me. Like even I have that box copy of Little Samson I was talking about earlier. We sold it to somebody, and then later he upgraded to a nicer copy. So that guy is super rich. So that guy upgraded to a newer copy, and then I had always wanted that one that came through here. But at the time, I was like, it's just too expensive. I got to make the right decision for the store, which is selling it, not take. You can't take everything cool home as much as you want to. You can't take everything cool home. And then he brought it back to me and said, well, hey, I'll sell it back to you at what I paid for it. Basically, return it to you if you want it for your collection. He's like, I'm not going to do it and lose money on it if you're just going to resell it to somebody else. But if you want it, so I actually bought it back from him. And so that copy that I was talking about earlier is actually in my collection.
Oh, okay.
But I don't even have that graded, and that's worth $5,000. I have it just in a hard plastic case, so it's protected, but it's not graded. I can open it anytime I want, pop the card out, pop it in if I want to.
That is actually really cool.
Yeah, it's wild, man. Game collecting's really, really wild. I sold my whole collection to open the store. So I sold everything I owned at that point to open. And then then from 2011 to now, I've just been slowly rebuilding it. And admittedly, it's way bigger now than it ever was. Like working here and being the boss, obviously, I get a very nice 100% discount on everything. It's all mine anyway. But so my collection has grown to places I never thought it would ever be. But it's been fun. It's awesome. Yeah, not quite as much of a hunt as a lot of people get to do because it literally just walks in the door to me, and then I see it and I go, cool, I'll take this home. I didn't have to go to a store and find it, but.
It's crazy variety that you got too. And I've seen that you do a lot of charity events too for your store.
We do. Yeah, that's admittedly I don't like to talk a lot about it, but basically because I think it hurts the purpose of doing it, but I like to also talk about it to get people to know we do it so we can raise more money, right? It's kind of a double-edged sword, but I always felt like when I opened here, the community kind of took care of me. And we had a business and we had good service and people shopped here, they paid money, they got a product, sure. That's all businesses. But like I felt like this community was welcoming and people helped me out every day of my life, the journey to where I am today, I had help. You know, I had a good family, which I know not everybody has, and like I had a supportive family, and I had supportive friends and community, and so when I got the store in a comfortable position, I wanted to give back, and that's essentially what it was. And what I raise money for, what we raise the most money for every year is the Children's Hospital of Wisconsin.
Mhm.
So it's local, and it's something that it affects people in your area. Like I have lots of people come in and they'll say, yeah, we spent a year at Children's. We went to Children's in Milwaukee and they're amazing and everything. And so you actually talk to customers face to face that say thank you for raising money for it because they're awesome, and that's pretty cool. But yeah, I just got to give back a little bit, and I'm a firm believer. I'm not a religious guy. I don't believe in karma even necessarily, but I would say that I think putting good into the world, you will see good come back to you, and that's not like a karma thing. It's just more like the more good things you do that affect people, and then they do good things because they had good things done to them.
Mm-hmm.
It just keeps spreading. And I don't know. Like I said, I have no proof of that either, but I think
You're right. You're right though.
I think no matter what, that's how I want to see the world, and that's how I'm going to see it. And there's a lot of nasty stuff out there, man, and there's a lot of people that spread horrible stuff that makes people do more horrible stuff, and so it's a constant back and forth of, how much good can you do to try to combat the people that don't do good? And I think ultimately there's way more good in the world than bad. Way, way more. It's still way, way more.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that you got to let up and you can't still push. And so, and what better cause than kids? I mean, we've all had ample opportunity to screw our lives up enough. Like you got to at least give the kids a chance to screw up their life, right? You got to get them healthy and stuff so they can make poor decisions and ruin their own life if they want to. But they at least got to earn that. And I think. I don't have kids of my own, but I don't know. I just can't think of a better cause than that. You got to at least get a fair shake at life before you can, decide how you want to live your life. But I don't know. That was a little philosophical for you guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any events coming up for your store at all, or do you ever plan on maybe expanding in the future? I don't know.
Yeah, no more expanding. I'm done expanding. We expanded about 2 years ago, and that project damn near killed me. It was awesome. I'm very happy and proud of how the store looks.
Yeah.
But it used to be, I don't know the last time if you had ever been in before the remodel, but basically where that black beam is there, if that comes down, we were half the store.
Oh.
We actually knocked this wall out and doubled up about 2 years ago.
What?
So that project was a lot. And when you're a business owner and by yourself, I don't have any partners or anything. I mean, yeah, you do everything yourself. Like I'm going through it. I'm literally measuring the inches on the floor because I had these custom-made racks. So I had to have them built, and you're doing all this, and you're figuring out how much room you have to walk in between. Can a wheelchair fit between every row? All these little things you got to think of that stuff, and you think of all this stuff. And so that was so no more remodeling, but I do feel like the store is exactly how I always pictured it in my head. Mm-hmm. Like this is the size store I want. It's big enough. I have a back room. I can store stuff that's out of sight of customers. Customers have enough room to walk around and shop. So it's very happy. So no remodels, but we do have 2 events coming up actually this month. Okay. So actually a week from Saturday is our tax time sale. We do one every March. People get their tax returns and figure why not spend it on fun stuff like video games. And then the Monday after that, we're doing our first of the year. We do Facebook Live charity sales. So that's one of our big things we do for the Children's Hospital is we get items donated and we donate items from the store, and then we do a claim sale on Facebook. So people watching, we put an item up for, say it's a $20 game. We put it up on a rack, and we pick the letter A through E. You put it up on the rack, you say, this is A, and the first person to type that in the chat claims it.
Oh.
And so then they basically buy it and claim it to buy. And then all the money from that raised goes to the Children's Hospital. So we usually raise around, $1,000 or so every time we do one of those. We did it's about a month ago now, we did a hot sauce challenge here.
Yeah, I've seen that.
We were doing a live stream, and basically people could donate money to the Children's Hospital for us to do the spiciest of the hot ones, season whatever 26 that they're on now.
Jeez.
And so we did that, and of course the first 5 were all the hottest ones, the bomb and last dab and stuff. So that was a fun day though. That was really fun actually, and we've been talking about that for years. It was an idea of one of my employees, and he was like, we should do this, and we finally locked it in, got it done, and it was raised over $1,000 doing that, just eating spicy stuff, man.
That's awesome.
The secret is I got an Oreo shake from Burger King. That was the secret, man. That thing it just, no matter what was going on here, that shake was like
more
the hand of
God,
soothing my throat.
Is there anything that you would like to add? Any inspirational stuff you got to say to the viewers or anything?
Not, just just do good, man. Right? Be better today than you were yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not like a man work harder today so you can make an extra dollar than yesterday. Like sure, but like be better today than you were yesterday, right? You know, and try to be real empathetic to people and understand that like you might see somebody and someone might come in here and yell at me, right? And they might yell at me about something, and I even will put myself in their shoes and be like, what's going on? You okay? You okay? I've said it to many people. I've looked someone dead in the eye and just been, you okay? And sincerely, not in a sarcastic way, just you doing okay?
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't realize, and I've had days like that where I'm out and about and something got screwed up at a store or something, and I just want to like lash out, and you're like, well, just we all make mistakes. We're all human. Just try to put some good out in the world. That's it, man. Just try to put some good out in the world. That's it.
Anything else you want to add, Andrew?
No, I was gonna say, be good, make some money.
Yeah, and you can do both. And you can do both. They're not mutually exclusive. So.
And enjoy collecting.
Yeah. Well,
I have a lot of collections.
And you guys should definitely check out this place located in the Pier. It's one of the biggest like game places that you could possibly find. I'd say in probably Wisconsin. It's pretty huge.
I'm very proud of the fact that I think we are
The cleanest.
one of the best game stores I'm going to say in the country. I think if people came here and had been to every game store in the country, I think we'd be really high on that list. But that's personal standards, and I want it to be that way. But yeah, I'm very proud of it, of the work we all do here, and I got a great team, and man, we're really proud of what we do.
Yeah. Okay.
I sleep good at night. I sleep good at night.
Man, well, this is at Game Trade. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Appreciate you guys, man. Thank you. This was so much fun, man. I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, it was really cool.
I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.